Hello everyone, happy Tuesday. Welcome to the ŌNCE Club in conversation with. I am really excited to introduce our next guest. We have Sidney Neuhaus, who is joining us from Kimaï. She's the co-founder, an exciting newish brand, I would like to say, fine jewelry brand that is doing so amazing at the moment, and especially with such a kind of what's a relatively new and becoming increasingly popular market with lab grown diamonds. It's also very exciting for me because Sydney and I worked together way back a few years ago, which was a really exciting time with thread styling. And so I am just super duper excited to just kind of get into the thick of it, of going from working with brand partnerships and fine jewelry with thread styling to the next thing I knew, she was starting her own new brand. So I'm super duper excited. I think I've said that 4 times now, so I will get some other words. Hi Sydney, thanks for joining.
Hi Dom, thank you so much for having me today. Really excited to be here as well.
Oh, my pleasure. No, I'm so pleased that you were able to we were able to get together and spend the time, because I've been watching the brand grow and yeah, it's been insane actually of your growth, especially during the pandemic and things like that. So I'm dying to also know more. So for those who don't know, do you want to tell us a little bit more about Kimaï, and also just about your background, because I'm aware that your family, you kind of grew up within the diamond sort of industry, the jewelry background, correct?
Yeah. So I'm the co-founder of Kimaï. Kimaï was launched 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years actually now. I come from Belgium, so that's why I have a super strong French accent. I'm trying to get rid of it, but it's hard.
No, we like that.
I grew up between Brussels and Antwerp. Antwerp is kind of like the capital of the diamond industry. I grew up from father who's a jeweler and a grandfather who's a diamond dealer. So I kind of like grew up surrounded by diamonds and jewelry. And that's how I got like really fascinated by jewelry, the emotion behind jewelry pieces, and diamonds and color stones. After high school, I actually went to London. So I've been living in London for 10 years now. And I studied gemology because I knew directly that I wanted to evolve in the jewelry industry. And I started by gemology is basically the study of diamonds and color stones. So I did that for a year, and then I studied marketing for 3 years. And then I worked also as an intern at ŌNCE Club, which is doing amazingly well at the moment. And then I went to thread styling for 2 years, and now I'm at Kimaï.
So you went from thread styling, and then you kind of went into launching Kimaï straight away.
Yeah. It went kind of like super organically. We kind of launched it on the side while I was at Threads, just as a side business. And then it just went viral because of Meghan Markle.
Oh yeah, amazing. So exciting. How did that come about?
Because we basically, when we launched Kimaï, we just started with I think it was 10 products, so 10 pieces of jewelry. We had just a website, Shopify website, and then we did a small photo shoot during the summer, super casual. We created the pack shots, and then we put it live. And then at some point we were like, okay, now it's live. What do we do? How do we get the word out there? And we just started emailing stylists, journalists, as many people, cold emailing everyone. And then you have this little 1% that gets back to you at some point. So it's just cold emailing people, and it arrived in a good inbox, I have to say.
I was gonna say, that's the one that you want to get if you can get anyone, because I think actually that might have been my first kind of intro, because I kind of was seeing it, and then I was like, oh okay, and then you're clicking on, I'm like, oh, that's Sydney. hello, Sydney. And I was just like super in, and it was just super exciting. You know, I was super into it from then on, and it was super interesting. Because even though I'd heard about lab grown diamonds, I hadn't seen it in a way that, you know, you guys have been, you know, going right in terms of just the finesse, I suppose, of the design and the way in which you sort of, you know, so it was super super high touch and high value, and it was really kind of like you know, the things were instantly beautiful, instantly covetable in a very different type of way. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think Meghan Markle gave us a lot of credibility, as you mentioned. That still a lot of people don't know about what lab-grown diamonds are and if it's real or not. So I think it really gave credibility to our brand for sure, but also to the whole industry, the lab-grown diamond industry.
Absolutely. And I mean, definitely made people want to sort of sit up and take notice. And I think we've come from a year, right, of people wanting to feel more conscious, you know, about where they're spending, how they're spending, what that looks like. And it's the same with fine jewelry. I think it's, you know, it's in all areas, not just sort of fashion and sustainability. Fine jewelry is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
how did you, so with your co-founder, you guys grew up together, you know, how did that partnership come about?
So we were roommates for a long time, for I think 3 years, and then we just like both were working in startups. I was working at Threads. She was working for Appear Here, which was also an exciting time for them. And we always wanted to kind of like create our own jewelry brand, but in a different way. Basically, we've seen that the jewelry industry and diamond industry hasn't evolved for so many years. It's very the way they're doing business is very classic and outdated. And then at the same time, we were also like seeing that like we were more conscious about the way we were consuming. So whether it's fashion, it could be food, like, and all those industries were kind of like changing, but
Mm-hmm.
we didn't see anything change in the jewelry industry, and this is where we come from. So first we ask our parents where do the diamond comes from that they buy, that they have in the window of their jewelry shop and stuff, and they couldn't tell us, because basically a diamond goes through so many hands before getting to its final owner, because it goes through many different. First, it goes to it's from the mine, yes, and then it's cut, and then it goes to a certain diamond dealer, and then to another diamond dealer, and then it gets to the jewelry store. So it goes to so many hands that it's very, very hard today to know where your diamond comes from. So that's why the lack of transparency was something that we couldn't really understand why it's still today it's like that. And at the same time as well, we heard about lab-grown diamonds. How we heard about lab-grown diamonds is because actually diamond dealers were complaining about lab-grown diamonds in the diamond district in Antwerp, and they were saying that it's really annoying for them because it's the same product, and even them they couldn't tell them apart. And then we're
Right.
like, oh, but that's something actually that's super interesting. And then we just like researched a lot for a long, like couple of months, research about lab grown diamond, about labs around the world and how we could partner with them. And we realized by basically partnering with a lab that you could really know where your diamond comes from first. You could know also the condition, how it's grown, yeah. Also, the other benefit of a lab grown is the price. It's 50 to 60% less expensive diamond, so it makes it way more approachable. So super interesting, and also and mainly the environmental impact. So the energy used for lab grown and a mine it's like there's nothing to compare. And also today we work with a lab that really offsets its carbon footprint and use renewable energy. So it's all about like who you partner with and trust your suppliers for sure.
Absolutely. And I thought it was also interesting that you also go one step further as well to ensure that even the metals that you're working with is recycled gold as well,
Yeah.
which is I think is also kind of, you know, giving yourself a 360 approach with the whole piece rather than just from the diamonds or from
Yeah.
those.
I think the core values was always sustainability. Yeah. But first, when we launched Kimaï, we were just using lab grown diamond and just usual 18 karat gold. We're not about being perfect. We're about like improving. And I think 6 months later, we wanted to actually find a partner to use their recycled gold and how it was recycled and everything. So that takes a long time. And I think it's also, and that in everything we do, it's not about being perfect. I think if you create a product today, it's impossible to be 100% sustainable, and it's such a marketing word today. But we're trying our best to actually evolve and being better. So 6 months after we launched Kimaï, we switched to 18 karat recycled gold, which is
and
just
I like that.
exciting.
I think it's really important to kind of talk about the idea of like, you know, it is a very difficult thing to be able to say right now within, say, the luxury industry or any industry, I suppose, that you're completely 100% sustainability, but your aim is to always be improving, not to necessarily have the finish. And I think that's so important, because I think that there's a lot of pressure on a lot of brands at the moment to kind of be able to prove and commit to this idea. And actually, because, you know, there's a lot of the chain supply in every area is so vast, like you said, it's almost impossible to really be able to commit to that. Why set yourself up? Be honest and like, you know, you're being transparent with your customers and saying, look, this is what we're aiming for, and we'll continue to keep
For sure. I think it's about being authentic, and I think that's way more inspiring than actually like greenwashing and like saying like I'm 100% sustainable, or you know, all those kind of marketing words. I think it's way more important to be authentic and say like, okay, we're doing that and we hope to do that in 2 years or in 10 years even, you know. And I think customers really value that honesty.
Absolutely. Yeah, authenticity is so important now, and I think the way in which you communicate that with clientele really goes a long way, I think, for longevity. I'd like to go back. So as I mentioned earlier, we met at Thread Styling. I believe you were sort of interning, but just going into like your more permanent role, you're becoming permanent. It was a super important time for the company. They were really starting to expand their growth, and you worked on, you know, a fabulous team on brand partnerships. And one of the things that I really loved about you know, your team and sort of working at Threads at the time was that we really wanted to work together all the time. There was, you know, we were always trying to work in a way that meant that, you know, the brands and the types of partnerships, if you will, or kind of things that we were working towards were always the benefit of the client. And we were always trying to make sure that we had all the right information so you could go back to the brands. And so there was always this kind of cyclical approach. And I think that's something that's always been really cool about Threads. But for you, but what I really want to talk about is that I suppose this is what it alludes to, is that there was a point, I guess, where we were having lots of popular requests and we couldn't fulfill them, if I'm not right. And somehow I remember there was like, oh, I can help support with making these ankle bracelets. And all of a sudden we were like, we had like a supply for ankle bracelets, and it was amazing. Do you want to talk a bit about that and how it came about?
Yeah. I think what I really love with my time at Threads, it was like that in a startup you do so many things and you're part of so many different projects. And as you mentioned, I wasn't dealing with clients because you were guys the personal shoppers, but I was helping them as well selling jewelry, because they might not have the experience of, they don't know what like diamonds are, like the carat, the clarity, and etc. It was really exciting. And also like meeting with brands, fine jewelry brands was really exciting. I think with Threads, we had this type of clientele, and they really wanted to have anklets, and nobody, like none of our brands were doing like the anklets they wanted to. So as my father is a jeweler, he has been a jeweler for 28 years now, we just decided to create that little collection of like, I think it was like 5 to 6 different types of anklets, and then we made like one of each, And then we were starting to take orders, and it was personalized because people could choose the gold color, the diamonds, the motif, and make it like more personal. I think we even had like anklets with Arabic ladder, for example. Like it was totally personalized. Everything was possible. And I think it was really cool. We sold a couple. So it was probably my first internal brand at Threads.
Yeah, literally. Like, it was such a cool idea. And I just remember it kind of, the idea of like, oh, this is, from conversation to actual conception, it was such a short turnaround.
Yeah.
It was super amazing to just see that we could sort of just launch this. I think it really, from everyone from sort of, the top down, kind of realized how special that was to be able to turn around, like you said, a small kind of collection in a really quick time, and then also capitalize on this idea that we're giving the clients exactly what they want. This is what they keep asking for, and we weren't able to fulfill it, so then we figured out a way to fulfill it, and it was so awesome. And also to your point about sort of working with the shoppers, you were so good at like giving that education, because dealing with the types of high net worth clients that shoppers tend to deal with, it's not sometimes you are in situations where you're not as versed in that particular category. So having like someone like yourself who really understood, because I remember even myself coming to you and being like, this client wants this, is this possible? Can we do this setting? Can we use that metal? Is it worth it? And kind of having a really strong sense of what we were doing and kind of learning as we go was so valuable. And it was, and it was really exciting. And I'll never forget that, just being able to say, yeah, we have anklets now. And like you said, the personalization was also super cool, because again, even now, personalization is so key in what clients are looking for at the moment. I'm sure you find that as well with Kimaï now.
Oh yeah, 100%. We have that. We launched engagement ring a couple of months ago, like back in November, and we do have like 7 different ring styles. But we do a lot of bespoke, and we do those bespoke rings, but we do also bespoke necklaces, and people love the personalization. And I think especially for jewelry, because it's so personal, it's often linked to an emotional event. So it could be a birthday, wedding, or anything. It's always very personalized, and people love that. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely something that always comes back to, you always start off maybe with the core pieces, then actually after a while, because they want to make changes, it makes complete sense to actually say, what is it that you like? If we can do it, we can do it. And you end up having a customer who will continue to come back because they like the style already, and then they also get to make it their own. They'll wear it forever, they'll pass it down to their children or their family, hopefully. And so it kind of has that longevity in this particular industry really goes a long way.
For sure.
Really nice. So with your so you're talking about suppliers before and kind of making sure you have the right. So how does it work exactly? Like, what's your kind of general process, from selecting the pieces and how they're made to how you're sort of putting that out to your sort of community?
So for product, for suppliers first, I was really lucky because I had a certain network in Antwerp. I knew exactly who I was working with. From the early days of Kimaï, we started to onboard one goldsmith as well, who's been there since the beginning. So we've been really lucky to really find the key people to actually make the product, so the jewelry. In terms of lab grown, so the diamond suppliers, I think it's a lot about like also networking, meeting a lot of people, and I think it's a lot also for different industry. It will be the same as well. Is like asking people, network, cold emailing, even do as much as you can to meet as much people as possible, and then select the people who you kind of have the vibe, but also like same values and similar objectives, I have to say. And from the making, so everything, all the pieces are currently made in Antwerp.
Okay.
The lead time is the same as before. It's around 3 weeks max, so between 2 and 3 weeks. Everything is currently made to order. We're trying to actually, as we grow, we're trying to make more and more stock. And that's something we are really aiming for the future, is actually having stock so we can ship directly to the customer, because now we know what we sell and what we don't sell, etc. So that's been useful. But yeah, for like there are different ways to make a jewelry. For ring, for example, it could be a cat design, and then it's printed in wax and then casted in gold. It's very useful to be in Antwerp because you have those kind of like independent workers who are in the same street. So you kind of like go um, from one to another directly, which is quite useful. And yes, we basically the collection, when we launched, as I mentioned, we launched with like 10 to 12 products, which was really pieces that we wanted to have like in the essential of a jewelry box. It's very subtle, very thin, very delicate, but still chic. And now we've been so for the brand, we didn't want really to work with collection at the beginning. We wanted to do product drops because we were feeling that it was much more exciting for the customer than having just two collection a year or three collection a year. We wanted to disrupt a bit the market. So now what we did is that basically we do 1 to 2 product launch a month, and then we do for bigger events of the year. So like Valentine's could be a bigger launch, or September could be a bigger launch, and then we can release like 4 to 5 products. But the idea is really coming up with like new products all the time, and then we don't want to have too many pieces of jewelry. So what we do is that we do sometimes limited edition, just so we don't have too many pieces on the website. So that's kind of the process.
I love it. And sorry, I don't know if you mentioned it before, but where do you source your lab grown diamonds from specifically?
So we worked with different labs. Some are in the US, Canada, Singapore, Israel as well. So a couple of places, but we really select them carefully.
And are you finding that there's more and more labs popping up now because of the kind of demand that we're seeing?
100%. There's many, like much more labs than there were 4 years ago when we started, researching. And the thing is that we really focus on a certain standards of lab-grown diamonds. So for those who don't know what lab-grown diamonds are, I think it's interesting. It's basically chemically, physically, and optically the same as a mined diamond. The only difference is the origin. One is made in lab. It's mind-blowing.
You can't tell.
And every diamond, whether it's mined or lab grown, is unique. So you will have specific characteristics. So for example, if you buy an engagement ring from us and the diamond, let's say the round is 1 carat, you will receive a certificate, which is exactly the same certificate as you would receive for a mined. Which is incredible. And then, so you will see that a diamond is graded with also like clarity, color, like the 4 C's. And because every diamond is different, you can really choose the diamonds you want to work with. So for example, for us, we really choose a higher color clarity. So we only use, for those who know, DEF and VS2 plus clarity. So that's what we really focus on. And that's how we also choose our suppliers, because the lab grown, yes, you basically can't control how the diamond will be at the end of the process. You can't tell like if it's going to be a D color and VS2. You can kind of like, it's like a recipe, so you can kind of like influence a bit, but it's impossible to actually, okay, I want a lab grown that's D flawless. It's impossible today.
I didn't know that. I thought that there was a lot more control in the sort of end process. I envisioned that you could, like you said, you could sort of do that specific. So I think actually that makes it you know, just as valuable in a way that it means that, you know, whilst it might be lab grown and maybe that takes away, I don't know, a certain charm or you know, from the process, but the fact that you're still getting something that is, like you said, unique is wonderful. The fact that you can actually still have a selection process in terms of the cut clarity, color as well, because, you know, for some things you do need a slightly lower grade in color, sometimes you need higher, so you can still have that choice of actually having an array.
Yeah, for sure. And the price fluctuate as well, the same way as for mined. So it will fluctuate. If it's a D or F, you will see a price different for sure. And it really I have a lot of customers who ask like how the value will grow or go down if it's a mine, but actually it really follows the same way as mined diamonds. So like it will follow the same path. Mined diamond go up and down as well. It's kind of an industry and it changes every day. So it will follow the same way as mined diamond. And And like the value, it depends what are your values, like
Yeah.
for us the value is like knowing where a diamond comes from, in which condition it was made, who made that piece of jewelry. That's what we really focus on, rather than, oh, it like the diamond has been made in under earth for like billions of years.
Yeah.
It really depends on your perspective.
Absolutely. It's actually fascinating, the whole process, I think. So we want to we were obviously, I mean, I say we're coming out of a pandemic, who knows, but with 2020 being the way that it was, were you did you have concerns? Did you find yourselves having to kind of pivot a little bit for last year? Kind of, what did you guys do? Because I saw, as I mean, just like a lot of other brands, of course, but I really felt that you guys were very present. Your marketing looked really strong. You were really kind of open to doing new things. So, how did you kind of come to these decisions?
So the pandemic was kind of like probably like 9 months after we launched, or like a year even. And the first year of Kimaï was, we were kind of really overwhelmed with the first success, like with Meghan Markle, the press and everything. Like we sold a lot of pieces, and we kind of like were always like, we had to catch kind of everything we were doing, because we didn't expect that success that quickly. So the first year was more like catching up. What we're gonna do? We did our first raise, like maybe hire first person, and then the pandemic happened. I think we were super lucky though, because we were 100% digital, so we didn't have any physical cost like retail or anything. We managed to cut our cost as low as possible. And what we decided to do is like really focus on digital and put our time really like on social presence. Of course, we had to kind of like switch our strategy, and like the way you talk to your customer. It's at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was afraid like how you can talk to people, like everyone is having like the worst time of their life, how you communicate with your, so the communication strategy has, we changed it for sure. uh, but the digital presence, we were still doing everything online, and we managed to kind of like still produce some jewelry, because we had like independent worker who were working at their own place, which was quite useful. But we also decided to really take time and take a step back to focus on the strategy of the company, what to focus on, what the next steps are for Kimaï and everything. And then we really worked, I have to say, on engagement rings. It came really naturally, because we had a few customers asking for it. So we did a couple of rings. Uh, and we were always thinking about engagement ring, because it's such a big market for sure. But we thought it would be in a few years, just because we first wanted to convince people that lab grown are diamonds. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because we had so many, not so many, but a little demand, and we did a couple of rings here and then, that we just decided to launch it in 2020. So yeah, so we really focus on that during those time. And then we in September, I think, when things got back to normal, I think that we could go back to the office and stuff. We just hired a few people as well to help us grow the company, and we launched engagement ring in November, and it's been really successful.
Which is amazing, because there are so many companies that don't not only get to grow, but really, and you guys were really sort of thriving, and maybe, switching your communication, like you said, clearly worked, to having the strategy, and also kind of leaning into what clients were asking for. Obviously was such a good calculated risk to kind of bring that forward. And now, we're, the rings are gorgeous, of course. And I'm sure you're also probably starting to do like getting bespoke requests for those as well, for engagement rings.
Yeah, many bespoke, and we can do everything.
Yeah.
We do have, so basically I'm in charge of the design, but I don't do technical design. I kind of like have my idea sketch, and then I have someone with me who do technical drawing. So we do a lot of sketches for a client, and then they can amend, and they make their own, kind of like they really participate in the process. And what was really interesting is that we deal a lot with couple and sometimes just a woman. Sometimes we just deal with, which is super interesting, I think, that people involve the woman that man involve the woman in the process. I think that's really it's new and more modern, I think, because it's the woman who's going to wear the ring anyway, so it makes sense.
Absolutely, I think so. I think there is a lot more of that. I'm seeing that as well with any types of like gifts and things like that, that now sometimes it's not, not so much of a surprise, but I think something with, an engagement ring, it is so personal. You really want, I suppose, from the male perspective, or whoever's doing the proposing, they really want that person, that their loved one, to love it, because they want them to wear it for for the rest of their lives. And
the pressure
yeah. Speaking of pressure, how was that for you? Was there pressure for
my engagement ring? I think so. I think so. I think there was a lot of pressure. I think it's hard to do a ring for
a jewelry designer.
Yeah, it's really hard. But I kind of gave hints and stuff, so
okay.
I think it was fine. But I think there was a lot of pressure because I still wanted to have a surprise.
Of course.
So we didn't do an engagement ring from the collection, because I know them by heart and I wanted to have maybe something a bit different. So but yeah, the pressure was definitely on.
Bless him. I don't envy him at all. But you're quite laid back, you're quite easygoing, so I can't imagine it was it was too bad.
It did well, so
oh good. Just before we start taking questions, so anyone who's watching, if you have any questions for Sidney, now's the time to pop those in. But I really wanted to talk, and you touched on it before, about sort of changing your communications. And I subscribe to your newsletter, and I love that you do the l'invite. My pronunciation.
Yeah.
There you go. That's how you know I'm not French. But I really love the take on speaking to different women, or different, usually it's founders and things like that. And what also strikes me is that it's not specific to jewelry.
No, yeah.
Wonderful. How did you kind of come up with that idea, and kind of why was it important for you to kind of use that within a newsletter?
Yeah, I think first, Jess and I, we love newsletter in general. When it's well done, I think it's great email to receive every week. But secondly, I think it was really important for us, first because when we launched Kimaï 2 years ago, we had a chance to meet incredible founders, female founders, incredible business owner, and like even people who were working at incredible companies, like from different backgrounds. And I think hearing from women from different backgrounds and hearing their advice and how they work, and I think it's really fulfilling. And especially as young entrepreneurs, we needed kind to have those advice and like feedback from different people. So it really came naturally, just because we had the chance to meet incredible people. And then we said like, we know so many people, we should definitely like share what we learned and what we would like to know from them. And then we just started like that, and we started doing those little interviews every week. And it's great because it's women from different background, different culture, different industries. So it's really, really, I love it personally. I'm biased, but I love it.
Well, I love it too. I'm completely hooked. And it's so funny that you said, like, when a newsletter is done really well, it's like a nice treat. It's something that you actually look forward to. It's always really nice as well that sometimes it's people that I am aware of and I get to know a little bit more, but it's also sometimes, or a lot of the time, people that I've not heard of but are doing incredible things, whether it's with their business, in the community, etc. And you're right, there's something really rewarding and valuable to kind of getting other people's advice who are kind of, not only they've walked in it, but they're doing it currently, so they're kind of sharing what they know now and what they've learned, but it's also kind of like a journey. It's not really like they're in a destination per se, so there's lots of different levels of achievement that we're looking at, and it's really inspiring, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's also a good way to actually talk to someone, you know, like we first, like we reach out to them like on Insta, and then you create that conversation. Oh, we would like to invite you to our newsletter and like do a little interview, and then you just start talking, and then you might just like take a coffee with them in a couple of months or weeks, you know. So I think it's a good way to start the conversation and like expand your network, which has been really key to Kimaï's success. I think is really like get to know people, and my co-founder, she's great at networking as well.
Oh, amazing. Well, that goes a very long way for sure. I'm sure as our ŌNCE Club members know. And yeah, I think like you said, I'm sure it was so imperative to kind of building out that network, building a network, and also knowing that you can have there's a support there, a camaraderie.
Exactly.
And it's really nice. And I think there's a lot of women who are, you know, that not just from a, you know, this business point of view, but I was thinking about it from, you know, knowing that a lot more women do buy their own jewelry. And, you know, this is choices that they make for themselves now. It's not necessarily around just gifting, that being able to kind of read these types of invites and kind of seeing it's all kind of stemming from, it's a super lovely thread of, you know, women feeling very empowered, feeling supported, collaborating, etc. So it's nice. So we've got a couple of questions come through. So do we have, the first question is here, do we have any new collection launches coming out soon or product drops coming soon?
Yeah, so we have a big drop in September, and it's going to be the first time that we use, basically in the main collection, in the fine jewelry collection, we only use brown diamonds, but it's going to be the first time that we include another shape of diamond, and it's going to be, I think, 5 pieces at least. So it's a big drop. And then every like October, November and December are big months for us. So definitely like we will have like product drops every month.
Awesome. And the next question here is, do you and your co-founder take on different roles in the business?
Yeah, so I think that's a really interesting question. We actually divide the business really clearly. Jess, my co-founder, she takes care more about the business side, operation. She handles digital marketing, and I do everything related to production, the physical product, handle the production, suppliers, and all customer. So everything customer service. It's basically me. It's like I handle all the engagement ring requests. We do Zoom calls with customers, for example. It will be me, and I think that's also something I've learned through Threads, is how like when you have an exceptional customer service, it really changed the game. So that's something, as we grow, I hope we can scale that as well. And I think this is our top priority, because we have really good feedback from how we really make it really personalized as much as we can, even if you're a digital business, which is hard to do when you don't have like the physical interaction, or even like on WhatsApp the same way as Thread. So we try our best to make it a really good experience. And that's how we divide the business. And we do also, like, of course, we deal with like marketing together if it's not digital. And we do a lot of things together, but we really, I think that's key in a business if you're two, and I think it's really hard to do it alone. So I'm really lucky we're two, but I think it's key also like to really divide the two parts of the business, so no one is kind of like crossing on each other.
I agree. Having really clear lines of, you know, this is you know your area. It doesn't mean that you don't get consulted on both, but having
exactly.
you know, the ownership in one means that things get done rather than it kind of falling in the middle. I think it's really important that is the businesses that I've worked with, like startups and stuff, when that's really clear, things work really, really well.
For sure.
So just one last question. Are you able to, or is it possible to do colored diamonds, or will you be doing colored diamonds?
Yeah, so at the moment we only do, on the website we only do white diamonds, but we've done in the past yellow diamonds and pink diamonds. We can do blue as well on bespoke. I think we will probably have a stronger strategy for it probably in the next year or so, to really develop that category, because I think it's interesting. Pink diamond are so if you look at the natural diamond industry, if you look at pink diamond, they're so expensive that not even the 1% of the population worldwide can have one.
Really?
So it could
Wow.
be, yeah, it's really rare. So I think it's really exciting. It's an exciting category to develop, but I think we have other stuff to prioritize first, but it's definitely something in the pipeline. But in the meantime, if someone would like to have a color diamond, they can still come as a bespoke order, and then we can definitely source a diamond for them.
Oh, very interesting. I mean, you guys are really disrupting the scene, I think, with this idea as well. You know, I think it's incredible. But we've come to the time to end the call, which I'm sad about, but I'm so pleased that we were able to do this. I think Kimaï is a wonderful brand, and you've been doing incredibly well. So thank you so much for just, you know, sparing us the time. I know you're super busy. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Dom. Thank you for having me.
That's okay. And if you guys have any questions for Sidney that we didn't get to, and you or you're inquiring on behalf of clients, please let us know. We'll absolutely get those to Sidney directly as well. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.